professor of finance from Rutgers Business School doing a live chat right now.
We're still on Blackboard, Billy? Or no, we're good now, right? Christine, are we good? Okay. All right, so let me start my presentation here. So I called the presentation, what it's like to be a finance major. There you have the people that we have met on the bottom there. And I just want to go over some guidelines, just how we're going to run the sessions. Again, try to keep the background noise to a minimum and get your questions answered as best we can. So we would appreciate that if you can just make sure you're on mute. If you're not on mute, make sure that you are on mute. We'll have a live Q&A session at the end. And the session is from 7 to 9 p.m. I don't know if we're going to make it all the way to 9. It depends on how many questions you have. But if you want to keep us here till 9, we will be here till 9. If anyone does have any questions during the presentation, you're encouraged to ask through the chat room. So in the lower right, you can see the chat room. You can ask questions. If it's questions about curriculum, Billy and Matt are there to answer some of those questions. And you also have Christine and Deb to help out. If there's questions that can't be answered, that's fine. Then they'll come to me. And I'm going to ask for my moderators to interject and interrupt me, not the high school students, only because then we'll have too much background noise. So the moderators, you can step in and then ask those questions, as I say there. And some of the questions will be addressed in the chat room, as I said, and other questions will be addressed to me, depending on what those questions are and how we move forward. And again, there'll be a live Q&A presentation using the chat room function, but try to stay muted for cut down the noise. And I'm going to ask my moderators to ask the questions. I don't know how many we have in the room right now, but I think it's closer to 80. If we can get some live questions towards the end, get a little more intimate, we'll see how that goes. So where can I focus in finance? We have a lot of students who say, I want to major in finance, and they often say, I want to work in investment banking. And when they say investment banking, I always ask, where? And they usually say, investment banking. So there's a lot of places that we can work within banking, within corporate finance, and on the investment side. So I just want to take you through some of the different areas that if you majored in finance and you wanted to pursue that as a career, some of the options that are available. So we can work in originations or IPOs. If you think of Shark Tank, right? And how companies go to see Mr. Wonderful and Mark Cuban in order to raise money, we think of the IPO market when companies first go public, whether on the debt side or the equity side. One of the companies that's gotten a lot of play lately is Zoom. I know you guys know a lot about Zoom, but Zoom went public to the markets a little less than a year ago and has done unbelievably well. Although today was a great day in the stock market, Zoom actually went down today. I think they're having a lot of issues with this Zoom bombing, and people are concerned about that. You can get into trading, and there's many areas to focus in trading. You can trade in stocks, you can trade in bonds, you can trade in foreign currencies, you can change in interest rate products. So there's a lot of areas that you can get into there, and we typically call this the front office. So you'll hear people talk about, I want to work in the front office. And a lot of people like that because that is sometimes where the money is, right? So a very exciting area, very fast-paced area. You don't take a lot of work home with you because when the markets close, the markets close. But also sometimes very difficult to get into. And you also have to have that personality to get into that. That was actually not my personality, so that would not have been a spot for me. You can work on M&A, mergers and acquisitions. So you can help companies either acquire other companies or work with companies who want to be sold, or a company who wants to sell a piece of their business. And investment bankers do a lot with that type of work with corporations. We can have financial risk management. So in finance, we have a lot of volatility in the marketplace, and that volatility can be related to currency movements, interest rate movements. It could also be related to commodity movements. Like we're seeing now, the price of oil has plummeted. Some of you may have seen that at the gas pumps. You see gas prices going down. That impacts a lot of people's businesses. So you can work in areas that can help companies manage that risk. Treasury services. This is kind of where I spend most of my time in teaching and spend a lot of my time in the corporate finance world before I got into wealth management, is helping companies manage their domestic and international cash, their short-term investing and borrowing, how they manage the risk of their company. So there's a lot of banking banks out there, like a Citibank or a JP Morgan Chase, that supports the corporations like a Johnson and Johnson or a L'Oreal. So you can get involved there. And then you can do credit and investments. Credit is lending money. Investing is investing excess money that these companies may have. So you are there really as a support if you take a look at all of these banking areas that you could get involved in. So here are just a listing of some of the companies that our students actually work for. You can see Citibank, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, Bank of America, PNC, and I also throw up TD Bank. So this is just a grouping of some of the banks, not all the banks that our students work with. Billy, I want to chime you in here because TD Bank is on there, and Billy just landed his internship there. So Billy, I don't know if you want to discuss a little bit about that internship opportunity.
Sure. So when you guys, if and when you get here, there are a couple different career and internship services that Rutgers Business School provides, including Business Night and what was the other one? Anyone want to help me out with that one? But anyway, so I applied through one of those.
Handshake.
Handshake, that's what it was. So Business Handshake is for all Rutgers students, and then Business Night is for Rutgers business students specifically. So I applied through there, and that got me kind of my foot in the door. I got my internship on somebody's desk, or sorry, my resume on somebody's desk. I got a phone interview from there. I had an in-person interview, which is sort of like the final round interview. Went in for probably 2 or 3 hours. Had a few there, and I'm going to be doing commercial lending, which falls underneath banking. So it's basically small businesses will go to TD Bank and request loans for new projects or expansions or something like that. And then the finance side of it is finding whether or not the company is stable enough, or we think that the company will be growing enough to be able to pay back that loan.
So it's a real cool opportunity for Billy. He's going to learn a lot about businesses. He's going to learn a lot about different businesses and understand the risk of what those businesses get into as they try to be successful, and hopefully get involved in paying back that interest and principal when Billy makes those decisions with TD Bank people. The next group I want to talk about is corporate finance. So corporate finance is really where I came from. And again, as I said before, we have a lot of professors that have worked on both sides. You have professors who worked on the banking side, and we have had people who worked on the corporate side. That's where my sweet spot is. Things that we can do under the corporate finance side is we can work on domestic and international cash management, investing and borrowing and liquidity management, which is making sure you have the cash in the right place at the right time so the company can run its operations. Financial risk management. So just like I mentioned above with the banks, they provide the service to the corporations. As a corporate treasurer or as a corporate CFO, I have to worry about that financial risk management, and I'll rely on the banks to help support me. Capital raising, right? So companies need money. And again, if you think about Shark Tank, when they're asking for the sharks for money, it's no different than when Mark Zuckerberg was asking for the public to invest in Facebook, right? Or if the Zoom executives were asking for the public to invest in Zoom. And that could be either borrowing money or on the equity side, what we call stocks, whether it be common stock or preferred stock. Then we have long-term investments. So not just investing in the short term, but we may also invest in the long term. So those different companies that we have our students get involved with here, whether it be on internships or in full-time jobs. We do a lot with Johnson & Johnson. So being at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, Johnson & Johnson is important to us. So you can see J&J, I had to throw up there. Other companies that you can see are Unilever, which is one of the largest consumer product companies in the world, L'Oreal, Stryker, Merck, Amazon. So we do have our students getting involved in these with these companies. And I know, Matt, you have an opportunity at Stryker. So maybe you can talk a little about that opportunity and how you got it and what are you anticipating?
Absolutely. So Stryker, for those of you who don't know, is a Fortune 250 medical device and technology company. So they do everything from orthopedics, making joint replacement products. They have a surgical robot that does knee surgeries, and they also make hospital beds and things of that nature. So I do have a full-time offer from them, but I did start as an intern. So I went to the Rutgers Career Fair and I met up with the New Jersey recruiter for Stryker from there, and I got hooked into their finance internship program. So that was, I believe, 3 months of interning. And then I flew out to Kalamazoo, Michigan, where their headquarters is, to interview for their full-time role, which is a finance rotational program. So a lot of the big companies like J&J and L'Oreal, they have rotational programs where you can get a bunch of exposure to different roles in different areas of finance and accounting in a short amount of time. So for Stryker in particular, I'll have 3 years and I'll be 1 year in a different location and I'll be in a different function and a different role for each one. My internship focused mainly on financial planning and analysis and technical accounting. So a lot of forecasting, budgeting, planning, and I really enjoyed it. So and I really love the culture there. That's one thing that I do urge all of you to take into consideration when you do start eventually looking for jobs is the company a good fit culture-wise for you?
Great, thanks, Matt. So a lot of these companies do have these large training programs that do last 2 to 3 years. I guess, Matt, you said yours is 3 years, Stryker?
Yeah, that's 3 years.
So there's great opportunity, and usually when you get an internship working with our Office of Career Management, which is actually having a session next week, if you've gotten the email or the website that shows you all the sessions we're having, we'll get that out to you before it's all over tonight on finance. But the Office of Career Management is instrumental in putting on career fairs and helping you with looking at your resume and going over interview skills. And we actually have a class that focuses on that to help get you prepared for these opportunities that Matt and Billy were talking about. The last area in finance I want to talk about is investment management. And when we look at investment management, I've just put down a few of the areas that we can look at. One is private equity, which is dealing with private companies. So you may have an investment manager that actually collects money from their investors, finds these private companies to invest in, and hopefully will take those companies public or will sell them to a large company and have a big cash payday. Hedge funds, which are investment funds. Again, these are people who collect money from their clients to invest, and they come up with a strategy on how they want to invest those funds. They call themselves hedge funds. We have mutual fund companies like the Vanguards and the Fidelities of the world. Those are, again, opportunities for our finance majors. And also pension funds. These pension funds have large amounts of money, and they have to invest that. So they need some finance people that fully understand the ins and outs and the risk reward relationships with those investments. So with that, we have companies that I know our students have gotten jobs with. You can see there Blackstone, which is one of the largest investment companies in the world. They actually do investments both on the private side, the hedge fund side, and the mutual fund side. And they support pension funds. You may have heard companies like Fidelity and Vanguard. Or even Merrill Lynch. So there's a lot of companies that our students have access to through our Office of Career Management and through other relationships that we've had over the years to get the exposure to our students for these types of companies. So now I want to take you to a little finance lesson for about 5 or 6 minutes, kind of ties in those different areas of banking and corporate finance and the investment side. And I just want to talk a little about like what is an initial public offering, to get an idea of some of the things you may learn if you become a finance major. So you can tell here by the 3 symbols of Lyft, Facebook, and Twitter that I know you guys are all familiar with these. But at some point, these businesses realized that they wanted to get some capital. They needed some cash to probably grow their business. So initial public offering is the first time that these private companies actually sold their ownership to the public. And again, I know I'm using Shark Tank references again, and I love that show, but think about when they're getting Mark Cuban involved or they're getting Mr. Wonderful involved, when Facebook or Lyft or Twitter are getting people involved, they're going out to the world to do so. And prior to the IPO, the company is considered a private company. We can't own that company. We are not allowed to unless the current shareholders would want us in. But once we go public, there's a larger number of shareholders and the world changes for these companies. And then after we go public and the company gets their initial capital or their cash for whatever they want to use that cash for, and you'll often hear that on Shark Tank. They'll ask for, I need $100,000, and Lori or Mark Cuban will say, what are you going to use that money for, right? So it's the same thing, just on a much larger scale. But then after that stock is issued in the public, it starts trading in the secondary market, which would be the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ exchange. And you will learn a lot about that if you become a finance major. So why do companies actually sell their shares to the public? Like, what would be some of the reasons? And again, these are things that you would learn in the curriculum as a finance major, is understanding how does a company forecast its future growth? How does it determine what type of capital it needs? Does it want to have debt? Does it want to have equity? And there's pros and cons to all that. So companies will do it to maximize their shareholder value, to raise money to grow the business, to create an acquisition currency and add liquidity. So this is a quote from Mark Zuckerberg, right, the originator of Facebook. He wrote, "We're going public for our employees and our investors. We made a commitment to them when we gave them equity, which is ownership in the business, that we'd work hard to make it worth a lot and make it liquid. And this IPO is fulfilling our commitment." So all those people that stayed with Facebook from the beginning, eventually when they went public, there was a currency there. And that currency allowed them to actually become liquid, turn it into cash if they wanted to. But now you can buy and sell in the open markets. And lastly, people may go public to increase company awareness. Right now, you'll be on Squawk Box on CNBC, or you'll be on Fox Business, and you'll be on the ticker symbol, and you'll get more notoriety from doing so. So my last slide, I told you it's only be about 5 minutes. I just want to review a few IPOs and some of the things that we look at when we look at IPOs. These are the dates, and I'm assuming you guys all know these companies: Facebook, Snapchat, and so forth. LinkedIn no longer is its own company. Microsoft bought LinkedIn. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone's going to buy Zoom at some point. But Zoom is kind of a standalone a video conferencing type firm, but there's companies like Microsoft and Cisco that have their own. And I just see at some point Zoom is going to get bought by somebody. But you can see here, these are the IPO prices. And let's just focus on Zoom. We'll go through one of them. So Zoom, they went public not too long ago, and they went out at $36 a share. So what in finance, what we have to do is determine what is the value of the company before the company goes public. And that's a tricky thing, right? It's trying to value something that there's not buyers and sellers for. So they came to the conclusion, working with their investment banks, that we would go out at $36 a share. And lo and behold, it opened actually on that day at $65 a share. So that $36 that we're seeing here, that 36 is the amount that the company got when it sold its shares, but actually it opened at 65. So it had a huge demand in the beginning, a crazy, crazy demand. And it actually closed the first day at 62. So as it opened and closed about the same, and it priced very close. And they raised $360 million. So that's how much they needed to determine how they were going to help support their growth in the business. Now, we in finance, we have to do all that. We do a lot of forecasting. We do a lot of figuring out what do these companies need to grow, and then how do we get the cheapest money through debt or equity to make that happen. So that's an example on here. And when I do go through this presentation, I do ask these questions at the end. What do you think about the price? What do you think about the price movements on the first day? So if we take a look at Zoom, Zoom looks like it was very underpriced. But if we take a look at another company that looked fairly priced, the closest one would be maybe Lyft. It IPO'd at 72, but it really opened at 87. LinkedIn was crazy. LinkedIn IPO'd at 45, opened at 83, and then closed at 94. So it more than doubled on the first day of business. So we study this and we understand, how do you value a business? We do a lot of financial techniques called time value of money calculations to help support the understanding of finance and also looking at financial statements. So with that, what I want to do is go through the finance curriculum. So to start off, as any business major that you are here at Rutgers University, you have to take our pre-business courses before deciding what major you are. So I'm going to go through what those pre-business courses are. And if you listen to other presentations throughout the week, and if you were here on Saturday for open house, they would have gone through it again. But I think it's good to repeat it just so you have an understanding of what it would mean to be a business major. And then I will focus on finance on the last curriculum slide. So the first one is you have to take Introduction to Financial Accounting, and we just have a change on this actually. We're waiting for the final approval on it, which will be a yes, but you can actually take that now your second semester freshman year. So this is something new that is only about 2 days old that we have come to this conclusion. But you also have to take computer applications for business, introduction to microeconomics, introduction to macroeconomics, Calc 1, and introductory statistics for business. So these are the 6 pre-business classes that you need to take. Most students will take them in their freshman year, also going into their sophomore year. And when you complete all 6, you then are able to declare a major. And if you're in this meeting, maybe you're thinking about a finance major, but you need to complete all 6 before moving on to whatever your major will be. So this is a total of 19 credits to start off. So you're going to see on each slide, I'm going to build you up to how many credits you actually will take in business for the 120 required for graduating Rutgers University. So then we have, after you've taken the pre-business courses, next you can start on taking both the core business courses, which gives you a broad understanding of many aspects of business, and then you can also then focus on your finance courses. So once you're pre-business and you get through pre-business, you can start focusing on getting through the business core. These are upper level classes. And then you can also get focused on your major, and I'm going to talk about finance. So the core businesses, I'm going to list all the core businesses here. So business courses. We have Introduction to Managerial Accounting. We have Business Forum. Now, Business Forum is that soft skills class that I talked about before that teaches you about interviewing skills and resume writing. And we'll have guest speakers come in to talk about different aspects of business. So we're sort of teaching you the soft side of business. And the reason why there is a number sign next to it as a footnote is you can actually take this as a freshman. This is another course you could take as a freshman. We have business law or business ethics. So you have to take one or the other. For most of my finance students, they kind of lean towards the business ethics class versus the business law. If you end up being an accounting major, you must take business law. Then we have financial management. Now, this is a little tricky for our finance majors. We have 2 financial management courses. We have one that is the 300 level, which I'm circling here on the screen, and the other one is the 310 level. If you're a finance major, you must take financial management for finance majors, which is our course 310. What happened was, as our business school has grown, we decided that our finance majors, we felt it would be better if they were in smaller classes. And we go a little more in depth in our intro class for our finance majors. So if you are a finance major, you must take 310 as opposed to 300. Again, you don't have to worry coming in as a freshman, but just be aware that's the course that you need to take. Then we have Introduction to Management. Again, it has a number sign next to it as a footnote, which means you could take that as a freshman. We have another class called Management Skills. Again, and number sign next to it you can take as a freshman. Business Policy and Strategy. This course is you take as a senior, actually, and it kind of culminates a lot of the information that you learned in all the different disciplines in business to look at business on a very, very broad scale. So you will take that in your your senior year. Management Information Systems, Statistical Methods in Business, Operations Management, and Introduction to Marketing. Oh, and also Introduction to Supply Chain. So those are all the courses that you will take. So in the core business courses, after you've done the pre-business, you get to now explore and see all facets of business. Even if you declared a finance major or an accounting major or a marketing major, you still have to take all these broad courses. And you don't have to take them all at once. You have up until your senior year taking those courses as you move along. You just have to be careful that there may be some prerequisites. Like in finance, you must take the financial management course before you can move on to any other finance class. So just keep that in mind as you're picking your courses, that you can't start at a higher level class. You have to start at kind of the building block or that intro class before you move on. And that's a total of 35 credits. So we had 19, now we have 35. So now we're at a total of 54 credits in business. And then the last one I want to talk about is the finance courses. So in finance, we have 9 credits that you must take in these 3 core courses. So these are all required. Everyone must take corporate finance, everyone must take derivatives, and everyone must take investment analysis. So we require these 3 courses. And just so you know, on derivatives, and you always have to look at these, whatever you're doing in college, at the prerequisites, you cannot take derivatives until you've taken investment analysis. And we have that all laid out on our website. where you can see, when you look at the courses, you can see what the prerequisites are. So you have to take those 3 courses, and then you have to take 12 credits, which are another 4 courses. All of our courses are 3 credits, are worth 3 credits. And these are all the electives that we have. So I'm just going to go through them here. So you can see all the electives that we have. So we have a very broad range of finance classes. Some of them are more geared towards the banking side or the investment side. Some are more geared towards the corporate finance side. However, I will tell you that if you want to go in banking, and you, sort of what Billy's doing at TD Bank, where he's going to evaluate companies and the risk of a company to lend money, understanding corporate finance, going into maybe advanced corporate finance will be very, very helpful in doing so. The course that I teach is the very last one here, called Treasury Management, which is really how to become a corporate treasurer and the things that a corporate treasurer deals with. That would be very good for if you got into banking, because now you can start thinking like that corporate treasurer. So if you're selling services and providing support for them, you'll have a better understanding of what they do. So this is a total of 21 credits. So we had 19 to start off, then we had 35, gets you to 54, and then we had another 21, 64, so that's 75 credits, right? Is that 75? I think I did the math right. So that's 75 credits that you would be taking in business, but you need 120 to graduate. So you'll be taking School of Arts and Sciences, core courses, and things that you need to take in that area, like expos writing and so forth. But you'll see you're going to be heavy with business credits. Now, don't be alarmed if I probably have some people on here who may be thinking about double majoring. You can double major, because when you double major, you just have to focus on the page that I'm showing here for finance for what other major you may have. Like I have a lot of double majors in finance and supply chain, or finance and business analytics and information technology. You don't have to do the business core again. And there are a few courses that double dip. Like my treasury management course, that also works for supply chain majors. So we have a few of those. So if you are thinking about double majoring, you can. The only thing I would highly suggest is that whatever school you go to, whether it be Rutgers or anywhere else, you map out your 4 years before you get there. And you take a look and say, what do I need to accomplish this? Don't wait until your senior year to figure out what I need, because maybe those courses won't be offered. All right. So we offer all of these electives, but we don't offer all of these electives every single semester. And it changes based upon the demand from our students of what we have, and also our ability to get professors who will be meaningful to you to support them. So one last thing I want to talk about in finance, we built this program called the Road to Wall Street, and it was touched upon a little bit on Saturday. But this is a very specific, for a very specific group of students, which you don't have to be a finance major for. But we started it about 9 years ago, and we felt we needed to have a better relationship with the Wall Street firms. So we built this program called the Road to Wall Street. And you can see as I read it to you, it's the Rutgers Road to Wall Street program is designed to boost the industry knowledge and interview skills of a select group of approximately 55 sophomores who demonstrate a strong interest in and knowledge of financial markets. So the Road to Wall Street is a fairly select group of people. You have to apply to the program. You apply to it after going into your sophomore year, so it's for rising sophomores. Some of the things that you'll get within the program is you'll get one-on-one counseling with the program director and the other professors that help support it. You'll have summer training and preparation. So we actually have summer experiences for you, both our academic experiences and industry experiences to help prepare you. We will do things like a better Excel training. We do hear a lot from our employers that our students need to be more Excel proficient.
I've got a question here.
Yeah.
Is a double major in finance and BAIT like quantitative finance?
No, it would not be like quantitative finance. I think when you think of quantitative finance, BAIT is business analytics and information technology. So it's going to be more of, I'll call it soft level programming. They do a little programming in there. They do linear programming. They do statistical analysis of information, of data, but not specifically for finance. Although we do have a great course there taught by one of our best professors, Waj, who does teach a BAIT course that's very much related to quantitative finance. but it would not be so much quantitative finance specific. We do have a master's program in quantitative finance, both in Newark and New Brunswick, that gets a much more quant oriented than probably our finance curriculum. Anything else, Billy?
Most of them have been answered within, so I think we're good.
Awesome, awesome. All right, what else is in this Road to Wall Street? We have a fall financial modeling and valuation course. So you're required to take a course where you learn financial modeling. Now, what does that mean? We talked about how did we come up that Zoom should be at $36 a share. Well, we do financial modeling. We forecast out financial statements, cash flows, and we determine what is the price as we look into our financial crystal ball to determine what the value of a company is. So we take you through that in the fall semester I think it's going in your sophomore year. We have peer and alumni mentor match. So we actually match up the students who get in the Road to Wall Street with peers and alumni. And these are basically corporate executives or bank executives to help support you through the program. So you won't just be dealing with a professor, you will actually have FaceTime, and that could be by phone, that could be in person, whatever it may be, with these mentors. So we make it a point that we get this one-on-one mentoring for the Road to Wall Street gang. And then we also have extracurricular involvement, whether that be in various competitions that our students get involved in on the finance side. So in the Road to Wall Street, and we're going to post this in the chat room, although I think I did, right? I did put the this presentation in the chat room. I think it was early in the chat, right?
I'm not sure if they could see since it was before they got here.
Okay, so I'll put it back in. But you can click on information for the Road to Wall Street by clicking on these links here, and you can see exactly the details of the Road to Wall Street. Or if you just Google Rutgers Business School Road to Wall Street, you will get a nice video about what it's all about. You can see the application process. So I know you're not here yet at Rutgers University, but the application process will actually start towards the end of your freshman year, because then you'll be a rising sophomore. And I think what would be really good is start to network and get to know the people that are involved in the program, as opposed to just sending in an application and see what happens. The applicants that we know will probably have one up on the applicants that we don't know. Right? So always think about in your college career about building those relationships. And the last thing before we get back to any questions that you may have, these are our contacts. So I didn't put I put the key contacts I think that would be good for you guys, although Billy and Matt, if you want to, it's up to you guys. If you want to throw your email addresses in there, you're more than welcome to in the chat. But that's my email address. Again, I'm Ron Richter, and I am here. You can email me whenever you would like. If it's about the finance major, I'd be more than happy to support you with that. And then I put Christine in there because Christine is great on our new students coming in who have a lot of questions as you're going through your decision making, as I said earlier, to feel free to contact Christine. Her email address is up there also. And the last thing I wanted to show you is we have these other online sessions. This is before we get to any Q&A. I guess you guys can see that on the screen, the big scarlet night guy. Yep. So if you, I will put this in the chat room. I'll just copy it here, but I will get it in the chat room. We have other sessions going on. So this is actually our third session, which is right here as the finance major. But tomorrow night we have marketing. If you're interested in marketing, Mark Kalin will be doing the marketing. He's one of our professors. And then we have concentrations, which is one thing I didn't touch upon. Besides having a major, you can also have a concentration in a business area, which is only 3 classes. So if you have an interest, I'll use real estate as an example. If you have an interest in real estate, you can actually take 3 real estate courses and you'll get a concentration in real estate. Don't be so concerned about just earning a concentration. Be worried about the knowledge that you're going to get, because you don't have to get a concentration. You can still take 1 real estate class if you want. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow night. Then we take a little break for the holidays because it's Passover and Good Friday. And then we start next Monday with supply chain, if you're interested in supply chain. And as I told you, I do have a lot of students who dual major in supply chain and finance. They do overlap quite a bit. On Tuesday, our Office of Career Management will talk about the services they provide. And also we'll talk about entrepreneurship concentration. Then for some of you, you may get involved in the living learning communities at Rutgers University. So we have someone talking about the LLCs, as we call them, the living and learning communities. Then we have Sarah O'Rourke. We'll talk about what it's like to be an accounting major. She'll be coming in on Thursday. And I actually do have finance and accounting kind of link. So I do see some dual majors there. We have talked about BAIT. Billy asked that question about BAIT, which is Business Analytics and Information Technology. One of our newest majors, but it is booming out there. It is definitely booming out there. And then lastly, we have someone coming on talking about different student engagement opportunities and mentorship opportunities and careers that you could get involved with at Rutgers University. So with all of that, I am going to stop my sharing. All right, I'm back with everybody here. I'm going to put in the chat room, I just copied the link to all those other open houses. So if you have any interest in those, you can take a look. And I'm going to ask.
I'm going to interrupt you. There's a lot of questions about the road to Wall Street, about how competitive it is. And I know you're the networking man, and they want to know how they can network to get a leg up for the road to Wall Street.
Right. So it is very competitive. We only, finance is our biggest major. And when I say our biggest major, we have about 4,600 students. We have well over 1,000 finance majors. So the road to Wall Street, as it says on the website, is about 55 students. Now, in saying that, if you don't get in, and I'll talk about kind of networking, if you don't get in, it doesn't mean that you can't still get the knowledge that that you learned from Road to Wall Street, right? So if you think about the opportunity that you guys have versus the opportunity that I had 30 years ago, I was talking to a sophomore over the weekend who I met when I did a lot with high school students, and he said, it's hard to get an internship in the summer. What should I do? I said, start learning Excel. Start learning the things they teach you in Road to Wall Street. He did not get in, but I said, but we know what they teach. You can learn a lot of that on your own. So to answer the question of networking, Ken Freeman, and if you look at the Road to Wall Street website, you will see his name there. He is the director of the program, right? So he helps make decisions on who gets in and who gets out. Get to know these people, right? When you get to college, it starts to become more of who you know than what you know. That's not a bad thing, right? You still have to be good technically. You have to be good grades. That's a given, right? We expect you to want to learn. We expect you to be an independent learner and get good grades. But you've got to start networking and getting to know people. And the more people you know, the more opportunities you will get. So we have this new program, not Road to Wall Street, but we started an honors program in finance, and students have to apply for it. So I just got an email from the professors who run it. They got an application from a student. The student put me down as a recommendation, and the professors sent me, hey, Ron, is he a good guy? I mean, that was the extent of the email. So now I can respond yes or no. I responded yes, because he is a good guy. But in saying that, when you get here at Rutgers, get engaged and just start meeting people. Use and abuse your professors. You got to get to know those people. Those people will help open up doors for you in a very good way, right? So this is not because it's your uncle or your father. These are just people that you need to build these relationships with. But it is highly competitive. Yeah. What else
Can I chime in about a little bit about the concentrations?
Yes.
I've actually got a concentration myself in business analytics, which is the first half of the BAIT major. Going through my interviews and learning and just asking a bunch of questions, I found that those programs are very, very important once you get out of college. And it was last spring when I had figured out that I wanted to pick up this major or this concentration. So I was a bit late to add it as a major because I still wanted to graduate on time. So I figured the information technology wouldn't be as important for what I was looking for. So I'd pick up the business analytics concentration. And the concentration itself, for a lot of you have asked, how many classes is it? This is 3 classes. It's half of the BAIT major. So it's really not too much of that. Some people asked, is there a minor in finance? There's a concentration in finance, but if you're a finance major, you can't do that concentration because it is the 3 major classes that you need to take as a finance major, the 3 required courses. And the Rutgers Business School does not offer minors at all. It's just concentrations. you can minor in something in the School of Arts and Sciences. So a lot of people do. I know of people that have done economics, as well as whatever they want to do in the business school, but that's a whole different conversation there. So I guess the minor equivalent for Rutgers Business School would be a concentration, if that cleared anything up.
I just posted on the chat room the website for that goes through the Road to Wall Street. So you can see it in the chat room. I just put the link in, and it goes through the application details. So I know you guys aren't at Rutgers yet, but you know what? You should. There's no problem with planning ahead, so you can take a look at it. Any other questions from anybody?
Ron, if I can chime in. We had a lot of questions on involvement. I know you touched about networking with professors. I answered a lot in the chat also. We have a business club called LIBOR, the Little Investment Bankers of Rutgers, and they bring in a lot of upper level executives. They spend a lot of time talking about finance and about the road to Wall Street, and you're going to connect with a lot of your peers. So not only do you not want to look at your professors, but you want to connect peer to peer, because they're going to spill the tea, is what you guys always say, right? They're going to have the inside scoop as to what you guys need to do and what they're looking for, kind of that interview process, because after the application, if your application's accepted, you will go through an interviewing process. So I answered a few questions in the chat that the Road to Wall Street is not exclusive to just finance majors. It's open to all the schools, actually. Finance majors have a little bit of a leg up because when it comes to the interviewing process, if you've been a business school student, you know some of the terminology, you're better equipped to answer those questions. But I would definitely, if you're thinking finance or accounting, get involved with LIBOR. At the involvement fair, you will see them. That's on Labor Day, the day before classes begin. They will have a table there to kind of, they have a Facebook page so you can see when their meetings are. So it's definitely something that you want to search out and get involved with. Thanks.
Right. The other thing about LIBOR that's kind of cool is LIBOR makes investment decisions. So they have this thing called the Bender Trust. So a alumni donated money, and that money is now used for LIBOR to make real life investment decisions. So this is not like the stock market game where you're given a fictitious $100,000 and see what happens. You have to analyze a company, you have to pitch it to a board, and the board will decide whether to go with your investment advice or not, and we will actually invest money. So it's real. And that's kind of cool to bring into an interview, right? That someone actually, it's nice to say I played a stock market game and I won. It's not, and the other thing is to say, we actually put real dollars to this, right? And someone trusted me for that. That's rather important. What else? Any other questions here? I see one by Akil. When applying for jobs as a double major in math, help for a finance major, and I guess does it help you get a job? Listen, I think at the end of the day, you guys are going to be coming here, and our freshmen come in here like a bull in a china shop. They want to try to figure out how to differentiate themselves and how am I going to make myself look different than the other person. The one area, so they'll double major. I've even had a student once want a triple major. At some point, you've got to get involved in groups and become a leader. The presentation I was watching before this was by Mukesh Patel, and he talked about how companies are looking for people who are leaders, they're creative, right? So there are those soft skill issues, not so much the hard skills that you would learn in finance or accounting, or even supply chain. At the end of the day, you have to get out there and become this holistic person, right? College is the coolest time. You get to grow up so quickly and you get to see all this, you see all the stuff outside, but you get to see so much stuff inside yourself. And I think putting yourself in those positions to grow, not just technically, but, get in front of groups and speak. Get into an organization and lead that organization with a fundraising activity, right? To me, those are the things that you'll be talking about during the interview. I'm working with one of our students now. She's a junior. She's a finance and accounting major, so she's double majoring. But I'm not working at all with anything to do with that. We are running a high school program together. And she has taken this high school program to all different heights than I could have ever done with it. Now, when she goes on an interview, she can talk about that, the impact that she has made on high school kids and how she did project planning and how she had to develop it and build contacts and network. She's doing it all in that program, on top of getting A's in all our classes, right? We won't let her not get A's in those classes. So, so think about your holistic self, not just the focus. Would math be helpful for a finance major? I mean, if you want to go on Wall Street and be a quant, I think math and finance would be good, but just be careful. It's pretty demanding, pretty demanding. Any other questions, people? What do we got for questions?
Transfer process coming as an SAS major.
Christine, do you want to handle that or you want me to
I
handle
was going
that?
to say, do you want me to take that?
Why don't you can take it, yeah.
Okay. So we have a lot of students each year that find themselves maybe on a wait list or didn't get admitted to the business school. A great option is the School of Arts and Sciences to start there. The curriculum aligns exactly for the first 2 years, meaning that you will not lose any time, money, or credit if you start in the School of Arts and Sciences. It is a very seamless transfer. The only thing that we ask students for is that at the end of the first year, they must have a cumulative GPA of a 3.0. They must complete English composition, which at Rutgers is called expository writing. They have to complete at least pre-calc or calculus, and then 2 of the 6 pre-business courses. If you fall into this category, I know that Ron put my email up. I will speak with you and your family, and I will craft your schedule for you. And I will do it so that you are taking the same courses just as if you were at the business school. So I spend a majority of my time right now in the spring semester doing that for a lot of students, and they usually will transfer over after their first semester, after their first year, I'm sorry, and not lose any time, money, or credit. So again, email me. We can set up an individual WebEx with you and your family, and we can go through that. But you will take exactly the same courses. You will sit in exactly the same classes as our business school students. So you're getting the same network. The only thing that you guys cannot do is you cannot attend one of the business school career fairs, but everything else you can do.
Okay. Other questions that you guys have? I'm looking at the chat room. I'm going to the end of the chat room, guys, so maybe there's some questions.
We are getting a lot of questions on the honors program and finance in the honors program. So I don't know if you want to, the difference is that finance is not an honors program. So I don't know if you want to take that or if you want me to take that.
You can take it.
Okay.
I think you'll be better at it. I can talk about the capstone projects if you want, but you can talk about the honors program.
Okay. So finance is a major within the business school. Within the university, you have the honors college and you have the honors program, 2 separate entities. So when you apply to Rutgers University, every student's application is reviewed for the honors college and the honors program. Honors College will admit the top 5% of students who have applied to the university, and you live in a living learning community amongst those students, everybody except the School of Nursing for Honors College. The honors program is specific to each of the individual schools, and we admit the top 7 to 10% of the students who have applied to the business school for the honors program. It has nothing to do with any of our majors. You actually take separate courses as an honors program or as an honors college student. So you're still responsible to satisfy the finance major or the marketing major or a supply chain major. But in addition to those classes, you will have other courses that need to be completed. A capstone class, you will have a foreign language requirement. So there are a lot of other extras that those students will need to take as part of the honors community. So Ron, if you want to talk about the capstone, you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so if you are in, is it the honors program or the honors program is the capstone?
They have a capstone in both.
They have it in both. That's right. They have it in both. So I'm working with students on the I've worked with a couple students on the capstone project. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. The one I'm giving you an example of what I'm doing. This student is doing a research project for her senior year. It happens to be on wealth management and related to retirement planning for college students. Like, what are college students doing for retirement planning? So she's done a survey. She's analyzing through that research and trying to come up. She had an initial thesis and trying to prove her thesis. So for you guys who are in high school, if you're thinking about the scientific method, she's using the scientific method to prove a thesis that she had. And this project is going to be taking two full semesters to get done. Students always ask, how big does the report have to be? I think her report's up to about 70 or 80 pages right now, of trying to justify her thesis. And so this is an example and this will allow her to graduate with the honors distinction in doing something like this. So what other questions are we getting from anybody?
What are some popular double majors?
And maybe Billy and Matt, you can talk because you know the students, but I often see finance within the business school, finance and supply chain, finance and bait. I don't see a lot of finance and marketing. I don't see a lot of finance and management. Finance and accounting on occasion too. You do see some of that. But then we also see people double majoring, as Billy talked about, outside of the business school. So we'll see students who just have a different interest. It could be an interest in music. It could be an interest in psychology or whatever it may be. But we do see economics also, right? We do see that one. Billy, Matt, do you have any thoughts?
Just two things I'd like to say. One is regarding the major combinations. I've even seen some interesting ones like finance and psychology, especially for wealth management. I've seen that a lot. Finance and computer science is a popular one if you feel you want to go more towards the quantitative finance side. And there was another question in the chat. It's talking about, it's asking Billy and myself about outside resources for internships. Honestly, I found my first internship was not through Rutgers. That was from networking outside. I reached out to people on LinkedIn and reaching out through friends I had and family, and I managed to find someone in Morgan Stanley that way, and that's how I got in from that. Stryker I found directly from the Rutgers Career Fair, but I did do a lot of research, either just reaching out cold on LinkedIn, emails. I went to my professors looking for opportunities, and I used Handshake and Business Night, which are the two career platforms. And I just would peruse that pretty much in most of the free time that I would have, just looking for opportunities and making sure to cast my net as wide as possible.
Billy, you want to add something?
Yeah, there's no punishment for getting an internship outside of the Rutgers resources. A lot of people can say, like, my dad's buddy knows a guy, is plumber, he works here, he's got a brother who works there, and all. That's how, honestly, most of your networking connections come from. Just those weird kind of off connections you have that maybe you didn't even know about. Like, even today, I find out that my history teacher worked, or he went to high school with this guy that I was interviewing with, and it's just a bunch of different things. So it's a lot less regimented and a lot less kind of by the book, but many of your opportunities will come from things that you just wouldn't expect. So like Ron mentioned earlier with the networking, it's like almost you kind of always have to bring your A game because you really don't know who you're talking to.
It's a good point. I think when you get to college, whatever college you pick, just understand you have to have a strategy. You've got, I remember I was talking to one professor who said, you're going to be in college for about 2 million minutes. How are you going to use them, right? How are you going to differentiate yourself? And the other thing I would say is, we have all this stuff at Rutgers. We have hundreds and hundreds of clubs. We have clubs within the business school, outside of the business school. You have your classes. There's so many events going on, but we are in a New York metropolitan area. So why do you have to get your full college experience just at Rutgers, right? There's other places you can go. There could be a conference in New York City after we get through this coronavirus stuff that you may want to go to, and that adds value to you. So this is your opportunity to find out, how do I grow myself? Rutgers, I think, can be very much a partner in that, but there's other things, and we're in a good spot being in the New York metropolitan area, and Philadelphia is close, that there's things that you can get involved in that just don't have to be specific to whatever college you go to. All right. Any other questions from people? We still have time here. any of the people that are on, looks like we've got close to 80 people. If you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, feel free to. I'm just looking at the chat room. There's a question. Christine, how many classes do freshmen in their first years typically take?
I was just typing my answer. So typically, we try to keep our freshmen at about 4 academic classes in that first semester, and then give you something called a FIGS or a Burns, which would be a first year interest group class, and a Burns might be something that's taught by one of our research professionals or a very established professor that's very hard to get in with. Give you about 14 credits, because there is something called freshman shock. And I want to be very positive on this call, but freshman shock exists. I experienced it. And let me tell you, when I go back to my transcript, the hairs on my arms stand up. So we really want to ease you in, because what I want you to know is right now we are celebrating you. You guys are the best and brightest of the bunch. You have gotten admitted in a time where it is very competitive to get admitted to the business school. With that said, however, when you start and you look to the left of you and you look to the right of you, everybody in that class did the same thing as you. They have stellar SAT scores. They were valedictorians. They were salutatorians. So they are all the best and brightest. So this first year is kind of a time for you to prove yourself all over again. So by starting with about 12 academic credits and then giving you those 1 credit classes, it gives you time to really balance out that curriculum. That's why we don't overwhelm you with those 6 pre-business courses in that first semester. We give you 2 pre-business, and then we balance them out with those general education courses, because you're taking in everything. You're taking in, for some of you, classes will be at night, classes will be first thing in the morning. You're going to be joining clubs and organizations, so your timetable is kind of all over the place. Mom is not waking you up. Your pencils are not sharpened for you. She's not driving you to school if you've missed the bus. You're learning to navigate our buses at Rutgers. So there's a lot of things that go into that first semester, and it has nothing to do with how smart you are or how bright you are. It's just kind of the learning curve. So we want to ease you in, so this way you're not digging yourself out of the hole. And freshmen always say to me, but I'm going to be behind if I don't have those 15 credits. You won't be behind. There's a method to our madness. We've done this for a long time. You're better to kind of start steady and slow, kind of walk before you run. And then the next semester, you'll go into those 5 classes, those 15 credits, and you will be right on time to graduate in 4 years. So we do try to ease you in a little slower than most.
Points, Christine. Excellent points. I did see there was a question. I don't know if anyone answered it. It was, can I get an internship after my freshman year? Any of you guys answer that? No. It is hard. What we are finding, though, and I do a lot with Citibank. Citibank is now starting to recruit earlier and earlier. They haven't gotten to high school yet, but give it a couple of years. I think they'll get down to the high schools. But they are starting to recruit to get freshmen involved with their program, and they're not alone. These companies are looking to get the best and the brightest, and they're starting earlier and earlier in doing that. In saying that, those internships are usually not like full summer internships. They're for a shorter period of time. It may only be for a week for them to learn about you, for you to learn about them, and eventually maybe get better into a different program or more robust program for the next summer. In saying that, there are other opportunities for you in those summer times. So I'm going to give a shameless plug to my summer camp, Deb. I know you're going to smile at this, but I run the summer camp for high school students. I'm always looking for counselors. So there's an opportunity. That's just an example that if you don't have an internship, there are other things you can do on campus. My summer camp is just one example of where you can get involved with people and network yourself to meet other people that may help you down the road. So not getting that kind of internship at Johnson & Johnson or that internship at Goldman Sachs if you're a finance major in between your freshman and sophomore years, don't worry about that, okay? Figure out ways that you can network. You won't be behind. Now, if you don't have an internship going into your senior year, you will be behind. But don't worry about it in between freshman and sophomore. Find those other opportunities where you can build your network that will help you for getting an internship between your sophomore and junior year, and then that next one between your junior and senior year. I think that's the key.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a two-part question. I'm actually a student from London, and I noticed that there's nothing on the Rutgers Business School website about the exams that I took in the UK in terms of getting credits going into their freshman year. But then I got an email saying that that there is information on the Arts and Sciences website, and I got an email saying that they run on the same sort of credit system. I just want to is that true?
Christine, do you want to deal with that one?
Yeah, so we'll pretty much honor the same transfer of credit. I'm assuming you take, is it IB coursework that you're taking?
No, they're called A levels.
A levels?
Yeah.
We might have to defer that to Kirsten.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the second part of my question is, how would I have a transcript, obviously, with my final grades. How would I submit that to sort of claim my first year credits?
Are you a transfer student or are you coming in as a first year student?
So coming in as a first year.
So I think maybe the best thing, Christine, tell me if I'm wrong on here. Ezra, right? This is Ezra talking?
Yeah.
So Ezra, did you get Christine's email address?
Yes, I did.
So I would send that in, send Christine a direct email, and then she can direct you to the right person in our group. We know who it is, and we'll get it to you. That can help evaluate what you've got. You don't have the right players here on the phone, but or on the WebEx, but you do have the right players that can direct you to the right players. So
I appreciate it.
Send it to Christine, and she will then forward it to one of our advisors who knows how to deal with this.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Great question. So, all right. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Well, if that's all we got.
There is one, Ron.
Yeah.
How can a student figure out what sector of finance would be the most interesting to them? Banking, corporate finance, how do they navigate those waters?
Right. So, college is crazy, right? You come into college, we force you to pick a major, you never did anything, right? And in that major, and we say, pick something, you're in business school. And how can you know if you don't try it? So I think the avenues to figure out what you like and what you dislike, and just keep in mind, sometimes it's more important to find out what you dislike so you can take it off the list. Those internships are very powerful, right? Because those internships will give you an understanding of what it may be to be on the corporate side or the banking side. And then as I listed those, there's many areas within those corporate and the banking side. The courses will help you because you'll take those courses and you'll get a better understanding of the corporate finance side or the banking side. The only caveat I would make to that is this. We can only teach you so much from a book. We can only teach you so much in a class. Talk to your professors. Talk to the ones who've done the work and ask them, what is a day in the life? Right? So I do wealth management. I've had a number of students ask me, so what do you do when you talk to a customer? What do you do when the market is terrible like it is now? What happens in your day? And hear what they say. If I'm talk to people who are raising capital for businesses, say, what do you do? How do you do? So I think that will help you navigate. We can do a little bit of that in the classroom, but you really got to talk to people. I think that's really the key thing.
Oh,
Anything
man.
else? Any other questions?
I don't have the chat history anymore, Christian. Hindi ka talaga nag-iisip.
We are going. I heard someone. I heard a dad in there. So we're recording this. We're recording this, and the chat history will be in the recording. Once we get the recording up, you can see the chat history. So. can I find what courses will transfer since I'm a transfer student?
They don't have the chat history anymore.
Christine, you want to take
We
that
do
one?
concentrate. I mean,
So
concentrate.
you will know what is actually transferred once you actually commit to the business school, meaning you have to pay your tuition deposit. Once you commit to the business school, we'll receive your name, and Tom Moore, who's our transfer advisor, will complete your transfer summary evaluation report. I can tell you, if you are coming from a community college and you've earned your associate's degree and you're compliant with what we call the Lampet Law or the New Jersey statewide transfer agreement, we're going to accept 60 credits, no more, no less. And basically, what that means is that you will not have to take any general education courses when you arrive with us. So you're never going to have to take another science, another humanities, another social science, none of those what I call GPA boosters. And if you have your 6 pre-business courses done, you will come in as a declared major, junior status, and you'll start right where Ron talked about those business core requirements. So those 12 courses that every major will take, and just the coursework in your major. So it would be 2 years. Now, if you're coming in from a 4-year school, that's a little bit more involved. So we need to see how your credits align with our general education courses, and we need to see what pre-business. But if you're coming from a community college, it's very seamless, especially if it's from one of the 19 community colleges in New Jersey. But you won't get that evaluation until you've paid your tuition deposit.
Well, there's a question. In terms of networking, is cold calling, emailing through LinkedIn the best option? Matt, Billy, you want to talk about that one? I have my opinion.
I usually, in my opinion, the best sources for networking would definitely be your professors. That's honestly where I found a lot of my opportunities. Cold calling works not as much as you would want it to, but it can't hurt to try. And as long as I would say if they're a Rutgers alumni, you have a much better chance. All the Rutgers alumni that I reached out to in the field, all of them responded to me. But you have to be a little careful with how you word your emails and how you word maybe your LinkedIn message. Usually, you want to try to sort of find a way to add to their experience as well. And just not make it a one-way street where you're just asking them questions and they're just answering them.
Yeah, to add on that, there's a ton of different ways you can network. So to say one is better than the other isn't, I don't think necessarily fair. So for some people, they might find that the career fairs are the best networking they've ever had because it landed them the job that they wanted. But for some people, like Matt's talking about, it might be more beneficial to find these opportunities through LinkedIn. But I think like Ron said, just casting a wide net and just kind of talking to as many people as you can and making all those conversations meaningful.
Good. Yeah, just don't connect to someone on LinkedIn and say, hey, will you be a connection? I get connections requests all the time. And I just want you to know they're kind of meaningless until we get to meet each other and talk to each other and get to know each other. So it's always got to go deeper than a LinkedIn connection, I think.
I have a question real quick.
Yeah.
So, as for Miss Kristen said that if you're planning on transferring from like a different school within Rutgers, it would she would help us set up the schedules and stuff.
I will. So just email me and then we can set up a one-on-one WebEx. So this way we can just kind of talk through the process. I find sometimes if I email students, it just leads to more questions than answers. So we can either do a Zoom, a WebEx, whatever you prefer, and we can kind of talk through that and, see how we're going to set up your schedule.
Okay. And another question, transferring from the schools, you said we take the same classes, right? So
SAS. If you're an SAS student, if you're from one of the other schools in Rutgers, I have to do a little bit more research to get, but we can still do it. Very easy.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
But you do have to maintain a 3.0 GPA.
That's
Right.
correct.
Right. So don't assume, and we're tight on that. So just make sure you keep your grades up. That's all. And you won't be behind. If you do it correctly and you talk to Christine and you get a 3.0, you will be in fine shape.
Thank you.
Good question.
Christine, we have a question about the placement rate for the finance major. I'm not sure if you have any statistics on that.
As far as career services?
Yeah, I think they're talking about like graduation and finding a job.
Right. So I would probably recommend that they hop on OCM. That would be a better question for them. I know overall we have an 85% career employment rate. I will never say the word placement. That's not in my vocabulary. So our career employment rate overall for the business school is about 85%. They would have specific numbers for each of the majors.
So OCM, for those listening, is Office of Career Management, and they will be on next week. My guess is, though, after being around for so long, that I think if 85% is our the rate for getting people starting their careers, my guess is finance is probably a little higher. Now, in 2009, we had a tough time during the recession, so that was a little rough, and we'll see kind of what happens with what's going on with Corona and how long this lasts. But our finance majors usually do fairly well, both from starting their career and usually also from a salary.
And especially those in Road to Wall Street, I know they're very close, upper 90% for career employment with the Road to Wall Street because they are being mentored by people from Wall Street. So.
And we've seen some salaries. I thought when you said upper 90, I thought you were talking about salaries, but but I have seen salaries there.
Yes.
I have seen salaries there. Yeah.
Ron, a quick question about where the recording is going to be posted.
Good question.
Is it on the RBS website or?
It's going to be on the RBS website. I'm not sure where yet. I'll have to contact Dan Stoll, who's doing all this for us. So we have a marketing communications person at Rutgers Business School. So we'll have to find out where it's posted. I think it may be posted. I'm hoping it's kind of where all the sessions are being there. But I have to wait. So I'm recording this. It will take a few hours for the recording to come up on WebEx, and then I email it to Dan. I don't know how to communicate to all of our students that are on here now, but we'll get something out to you somehow. Maybe we can do it through admissions or through Symphony. Christine, do we have access to send emails out?
I do. I have access. I have to learn, but we do have access.
Okay. So once we get it, yeah. But I think I'm hoping that it's going to be on the link where we show all the open sessions, and we'll just have a link there to see the recording.
And we did get a question about a 5-year master's. I don't know if you want to take that or if you want me to take it.
Why don't you take it, and then I can add if I need to. Okay.
Okay, so we do have a Future Leaders program, which is the accelerated MBA, as well as many other master's degrees. For the accelerated MBA program, that application will come out in a student's junior year. They need to have a qualifying cumulative GPA of a 3.5, and they need to place in the top 25% on their GMAT or their GRE, which is very similar to what you guys took as far as the ACT or SAT. It's just graduate placement exams. This is me talking to you as a parent, not as an admissions officer. I always recommend go out and start working. You guys will have been in school for 16 years. Do you really know what you want to do for another 2 to 4 years? Probably not. It's taken me a long time to figure out what I want to do. So I usually recommend go out, start working. A company can always then help to pay for your studies at that stage. And your vision, your purpose, what you might want to do as far as a master's degree might change. So my answer is yes, we do have it. Certainly you can qualify for it and continue right on. But a lot of times an MBA and different masters, they're looking for real world hands-on experience also. And when you've been sitting in a class for 16 years, you don't have that. So it might be better off just going out and working and having a company help you. Ron, anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add, and I echo what Christine said. I got my MBA, and I worked for a couple of years before I went back. I got more out of it than if I went right out of college. So forget about maybe, you know, what schools are looking at for you to get experience. They're doing that for a reason because you get more value out of it if you do wait. And as Christine said, your focus may change. You may start a career and you may pivot to the right or pivot to the left, and that general MBA may not be important to you, right? It may be something else. Maybe it's a certification, become a certified financial analyst, a CFA, or whatever it may be. So I don't know if I would be focusing on that yet. It's an opportunity for you if you're interested, but I think there's other ways that you can build your career than just going purely for that graduate degree immediately. And maybe you'll find other ways of doing it.
Ron, we also got a few questions on study abroad and the benefits to that. I don't know if you want to take it or you want me to take it.
I'll start off, I guess, and you can fill up. So I know students have done it. My son did it when he went to college. I think it is a great opportunity to grow yourself. My son went to Italy. He also went to Australia by himself. So he had to learn how to navigate, right? He had to navigate life, build his self-confidence. That was definitely more important than the academics, especially when he was on Australia and bungee jumped off of a bridge in New Zealand. But he did all that stuff, right? So there's great value in learning and navigating life on your own. As far as the coursework, I think a lot of our students probably take a little lighter course load when they study abroad, not so technical. And I think that's because they're trying to also embrace the experience of doing so. But I am a big fan of personally of study abroad. I've seen students grow from it, and specifically my son.
And just to kind of add to that, we have our own office of special programs. So we have an advisor that works with the students to go into study abroad. We've already identified what courses are going to matriculate. And again, you have the option because a lot of our students do get involved with internships and co-ops, so it's hard for them to study abroad during a semester, but they really want that experience. So we have a winter session option. You can study for as few as 3 weeks over the summer and earn 6 credits that will count towards the curriculum. So there's lots of areas of opportunity. We also have internships abroad. Now those can only be done in the summertime. They're not paid, but I will tell you that that is the first thing that employers will question you on when you are standing in those lines at our career fairs. It really sets our students apart. It gives you something more to talk about than just your academics. So as I've been reading through a lot of the questions and comments, you're all very concerned with double majors, minors, what's the best avenue. I think you need to really go beyond just the academics and give yourself something more to talk about, and study abroad or an internship abroad can really help you to do that. We had a young lady who graduated last year. She did an internship abroad. She went to Hong Kong for 8 weeks. She worked for Under Armour. She was flown in on a Friday night and started work on a Monday. And she said it was invaluable. And it was the first thing that employers always asked her about, because you're learning about cultural differences and how to interact. And those are just beneficial that you can bring to any company. So try to think about things that are out of the box and not just doing double majors and minors and being so academic. That would be my advice to you.
Good. All right. Anybody have any other questions they want to ask? Or do we see anything in the chat room where someone can take off their mute and ask the question? It's been a great session, guys. Right? Awesome. Awesome stuff. Now we can go back and watch Netflix and whatever you were binging on. All right. I'll ask one more time if anyone has any questions or if we see anything in the chat room. And then if there are none, we'll call it a day. Does anyone have any questions?
I want to thank you all. Great session.
Okay. Awesome. Great, Ezra. Anybody else? Anybody else? All right, so we will be posting this once it gets recorded, or I get the recording sent from WebEx. I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank all my people who are helping out. Christine, Matt, Billy, Deb, thank you so much. If you have any questions, reach out to myself or reach out to Christine. We can get you the answer. If we don't have it, we know where to get it. And we hope to see most of you here being Scarlet Knights. That would be awesome. So, all right, with all that, have a great evening. Take care.